Oops.
Okay.
Well, that's great. The recording's back in progress. I'll be the singer of our show too. We'll announce it every day, like with some amazing love song by Amy, and Sylviane will come in singing all the lyrics to it, because you have
I'll be
actually a really pretty voice.
Delilah.
That's it.
Delilah.
I love it. You do have a good voice.
I
You have a musical
love
background.
Delilah, by the way. I
I
love
do
Delilah.
too.
I think
Yeah.
she's super honest, and she gives like good advice. And I think, I mean, for years I've listened to her. Actually, my kids grew up listening to her, and they still they remember all the songs. And I always wanted to call, actually, but I never did.
Me too.
Yeah.
Always. I've always loved her. I've always listened through like difficult times, like when I first had Caitlin and we were going through all of those,
ups and downs, and
yeah, just constant, like trying to find out what her condition was, how would she function later on in life, all that sort of bag of goodies, and
Yeah.
so but I'd listen to her and she'd play songs, or she'd have something to say, and I'd think, man, I mean, she's really has the right tone of voice and the affectation and the energy and the
shooting. And if she felt that you were in a tricky situation, she wasn't shy to be honest, always with kindness. I always tell that to my kids. Everything can be said with
kindness.
I don't know.
Which is something I struggle with. I totally agree. I totally agree. And I mean, people always say I'm my worst critic. I'm hardest on myself. But I mean, I do at times lack, if I become too redundant, or I repeat because of my own like OCD or my own hyperactivity stuff. Because I get, I'm such a emotional person, and I feel and I get attached and I get really worked up. So sometimes I feel like, and it's part of my personality as well, I think. And we Sagittarians, it even says it in the zodiac. I know that sounds so hippy dippy, like, oh, she's into the cosmic stars, she won't go outside because it says she'll wilt today, not any of that stuff. But it says like Sagittarians like to put their foot in their mouth, and so when we are kind of a fire sign.
Okay.
So at times with my kids, I mean, I look and I think, if they had like a teacher, a mom, like a preschool teacher that would just never, ever got like flustered by stuff, I feel like that would be beautiful. But I think when they were younger, I had tons of patience and always was very much like, quite hands-on and very present. But then, the more that happens, the more they get older, someone's involved in this, someone's involved in that, someone's not doing their homework or whatever the case may be. Then you're like, not using a tone of voice that you really want to, or something. And that's
too much is too much. And the support you had, like at some point there was no support, right? So you were on your own. So it's like, at some point something's going to give it. And I mean, patience is a virtue, and we work on it. And that's why I really, in the last few years, I've really worked on my patience by doing a lot of meditation, or just thinking, or even writing my thoughts, like, and that's really, for me, it was therapeutic anyway. I mean, I think studying, you have to find, like,
you have to have music, your niche.
Yeah, everything has to be worked
equal
on, right?
In some way. And I think, like, you going back to school, you always wanted to go to med school. You did well on your MCATs, but you never, pursued it because you had children and went a different path. And then at 50 saying, you know what? I mean, I've always wanted to do this. So now I'm going to study and become a naturopath. And that's huge. Like, that's very motivating to me, because it's funny how we were talking about kind of the circle of life, like, in our 20s, it was more like maybe you were mentoring me in some ways, and then I was mentoring you because you were just pregnant with your first, right? And I had 3 kids. And then it all turns around. Then, like, you're totally there for me, and I'm totally there for you. But we've learned to grow in ways that aren't necessarily parallel or the same, but it's just like meeting the right partner. If you, when you're with the right man,
like you said,
exactly. Yeah. And when I say you're with the right man, it could be a woman, it could be a donkey, whatever you want to be with is up to you. But you know how like the universe somehow puts you together with your partner to work on your own issues, right? It's not necessarily that the person's not going to challenge you or make you go deep or make you get raw and really talk about real stuff. It's just so important to understand that that's a good thing, to push through your fears, push through your insecurities, so that then you can be secure with somebody. Because we both know walking on eggshells and not addressing the situation by, freaking just making boulders after boulders every time you're sweeping something over. We might as well be on the Flintstones. You know what I mean? It's like we'll be driving little Flintstone cars with our feet. Yelling, Wilma! You know what I mean?
I love that show.
I mean, it's
that was
the
my
Stone
noon.
Ages, though, right? I mean, you could relate to it, and you're sitting there thinking, here we are in the 21st century, but it's all. I mean, all of it is learning, growing, and realizing that to be vulnerable, to let your guard down, is not a bad thing if you're obviously with the right people, the right partner, because we've all been damaged or traumatized by people that you thought really were your people, right? But that's all part of growing and learning too, because going through those type of things teaches you, right? It either teaches you, okay, that really sucked, that person I thought really cherished my thoughts and cherished our friendships, and now I learned that maybe he or she doesn't. But it doesn't mean you have to then become more reclusive or more solitary.
Bitter, and
right?
It comes with anger, bitterness, fear.
Or depression, right? Like for me, I don't know if I get angry. I get more like depressed. Every time you have like another chip at yourself, another blow, it's like, for me, I can easily go into that reclusive state and say, oh, you know what? It's just easier because I'm home anyway with Caitlin. So it's easy to just like not go anywhere. And that's kind of my escape, is to
like
retreat from society. Yeah. Which, coming up to see you was huge, because I had been in a very reclusive sort of state. And then when my son Keegan was like, no, I want to go see Auntie Sylvia, and I want to go see Michelle and all the kids and cousins, because we see each other as family, right?
Yeah.
It was it gave me so much inspiration. It got me out of my like darkness and my gloom of kind of living each day, kind of going like, what's next? Or, you know what I mean? So and then this is what came to light after seeing you and how energetic and happy and buoyant you are now that you're starting your own business and you've, accomplished all these things while raising absolutely lovely children. I mean, they really, truly
look at you,
lovely kids.
The fact that your son, the fact that
I know he wanted that for me. I know
he wanted, like, that was very. I mean, he had a great time.
That was very,
But he's 24. He's not like 50, and he just decided, you know what, Mom, we're going, we're driving,
exactly,
and we're to drive, and we're gonna do this. And that was like, he took his car, huge. Right? He took his car.
We drove his car.
Yeah.
He was absolutely, it's the closest, like I said, I've ever been to Keegan. I think, he's my fourth child. Our divorce was very, very ugly and contentious. And we lived in the same town where everybody knew everybody. That's just how it was, right? I'm the mom with the oldest child who's handicapped in a wheelchair. And then I have 4 other kids, people are like, whoa, that is a poster for birth control right there. Holy, back up the train, pull the fire alarm, get it out, baby. Put an extinguisher out on me and say, all right, tie those damn tubes. But seriously, it's like, what is this chick doing? She's got one that's in a wheelchair going all the time. Caitlin makes those sounds.
That's how she communicates, though.
That's how she communicates.
That's her way of communicating.
That's right.
Princess.
People will say, how do you know what she wants or what she needs? And I'm like, well, first of all, she came out of me, so I should know about her. And even though she's 32, all of her different, like, hysterically funny sounds mean something, either I'm wet, I'm I'm hungry, I'm in a bad position, whatever it may be. But it is pretty funny though, to think like, you know, when people would see me with multiple children, be kind of going like, is the child have special need or is it the mother?
Yeah, well, especially we're in a, you know, in my grandmother's time or even in my dad's time, he comes from a family of 10 kids. My grandmother that comes from a family of 17 kids. I mean, now you have more than 3 and it's like
oh my
you're on
gosh,
the verge of craziness. But
exactly.
and I felt that too. And I mean, it's, I don't know, it's just is, right? People judge, people, there's envy, or when there's unknown, I find people are quickly to judge. And that's what you talk about, empathy, right? You talked about that before and the other time. And if people had a little more empathy, then they would understand and they wouldn't have such fear of like talking to a mom that has a handicapped child and 4 kids or four kids or whatever, like, or divorce or whatever it may be. It's like the fear of the unknown. I think that's
exactly.
And
we all know now, which is something I really could have used in my youth because I was such a hypersensitive child, is when somebody is criticizing or pointing fingers at somebody else, we know it's how they feel about themselves, right? I mean, I'm 56. I'm just finally
learning that,
getting that through my head. Exactly.
Anybody,
I mean, it's pretty,
Anybody feels that? Like if it, 85, there's a research, a study, 85% of what people say is not about
you, it's about them.
It's about them. 85%.
It's about their,
huge. But
that really shows how selfish we are. You know what I mean? Like, whoa, 85% of us are narcissistic. Shit, that's a dark thought.
We'll have to have a psychologist on our show. I mean, if anybody wants to come and explain to us.
That's what we want to say too to people. We want to say, listen, you know, we're just getting this up and going. Our name is SAS, which stands for Sylviane, Amy, Soul Sisters. We are SAS with a touch of class.
You're so smart. Yeah.
Aren't I? I know. Sometimes, you know, the noggin works just for a few minutes, right? It's like, choo, 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 choo. I think I can. Okay, I'm going to do it for now.
That's menopause doing.
5 seconds later, I won't remember what I just said. But no, you know, empathy. I mean, we all know empathy is like the biggest thing on earth. And yeah, it was a really touching time, I have to say, for you, all you mothers that are like Sylviane and I. She's not quite an empty nester because she still has her youngest home who's studying at university. He's 21. And my kid's the only one I have at home now is Caitlin, my 32-year-old adult disabled daughter. And so that was a huge crash for me emotionally.
I mean, I would like to talk about it. I'll just, if ever you want to talk to us or write to us comments or you have something to say, please go on the chat line or whatever it is and write to us. We'll read all your messages.